Hi, and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we did? We're continuing off from our discussion last week, so let's jump right in.
Who are you? You didn't introduce yourself.
Oh. Yes, I am your co-host, Andrew. I almost forgot.
And I'm your co-host, Michelle, Andrew's mom. I totally mommed you in that moment. Oopsies.
Mommed you?
Actually, I didn't mom you. I just gave you a friendly little reminder.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I'm glad one of us is paying attention. It sure as heck isn't me right now.
It's been a long day.
All right, on with the podcast.
You were talking about, like being an optimist. If you have all these different, like, oh, this is going to be great and that's going to be great and this potential is great and all these things are like, oh, it's all possible. And then when it doesn't happen, there's like this just, this heaviness or this disappointment or like this. And I'm not saying you're saying this. I'm saying this has been like how I felt when I showed up in a state of always believing that the best was possible and probable even. I would argue that I went to probable, which was a problem for me because it just created a bunch of pain and suffering on my part because I was not only thinking it was possible and probable, but I was attached to the idea that it would be true, that it would come true.
I've definitely like almost like you have that like entitlement to the best possible outcome. Is that something
maybe.
you feel?
I don't know.
Because I felt that in myself before.
I don't like that word entitlement.
I've noticed that in myself before, where like if something in particular, this happens a lot in like games, and I've taken that, noticing it in games, and actually notice it in real life too sometimes, where if something is very probable to occur and good for me, and then it doesn't occur, I feel like cheated almost a little bit. Like, oh, I got so unlucky there. That's not what should have happened,
Yeah. And growing up in a competitive family, that's even more so, probably, right?
For playing games, for sure, yeah.
For playing games, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah. I mean, playing games is like, well, my luck's not happening today. For those things, especially now, I didn't used to be. I used to get super mad about it. Like, why are they always so lucky? Why am I so unlucky? Woe is me. Want. Victim. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. I don't so much do that anymore. I don't even care if I win or lose. I'm about the experience, and it's fun to watch other people navigate and how they navigate. That's not to say that I can't be a good competitive person. Mm-hmm. I do enjoy winning, but also, what is my definition of winning? It's not always like the end result, I won the game. Sometimes it's like I won because I spent time with these people and we laughed a lot, and like the experience, like I did the best I could and I lost, and that's all right because they did the best they could and they won, and that was amazing and I'm happy for them. I didn't used to be able to get there. Yeah,
because it's like because in a game when that happens, like when I noticed that happening, if I am like, oh, that's not what should have happened or whatever. I think I've gotten pretty good at just taking a step back and being like, it's okay, it's just a game, this is all for fun.
Yeah.
And to me, that's actually part of the fun, is those, like, you get to experience that full range of emotion. And like, I am in real life, very rarely do I get genuinely angry at other people, but in a game, I can feel what it's like to be angry at someone else in this safe environment. That's really fun. And like, that is part of the draw of games for me. And part of the appeal is like that getting invested. And then it's like that's what makes it meaningful. But then you can also take that step back and tell yourself, if you're getting too actually upset about something, okay, this is just a game, and I can appreciate this from the outside for what it is, and recognize that it doesn't really matter, or it, winning doesn't really matter. It's about the experience of this, and that's really powerful. And I think that stepping back outside of the game, that process of stepping backwards, is something that you can also do in life, is step backwards.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Outside of your own experience and just witness your own life as if it were a game. And you need to care about your own life for it to be meaningful. Just like you, like that's for the same reason that me getting really into this game that we're playing and maybe feeling, genuinely upset or angry or whatever, or joyful when something unexpected and good happens or whatever. Like that range of experience is what makes it meaningful. But the being able to step back and have that aesthetic experience, that aesthetic appreciation of the experience of playing the game or the experience of living your life is this really like grounding experience for me, and really, really powerful, I guess.
I'm like listening to you talk about games and how passionate you're getting, and I'm like, are you that passionate about your life? What I heard in that is that you're learning to be, but you're actually, the games are teaching you how to realize that, like, why are you putting a game giving that more importance than your life, and realizing that, like, oh, you can have the same kind of passion with your life as you do with your games. I don't know, maybe I misinterpreted, but that's kind of how it sounded, was like you were learning a lot about how much, like, because you said you don't get mad at people very often, but when you're in a game, you do. And then you experience like the highs and the lows, right? In an emotion that you don't often get outside of gaming, so to speak. I don't know. I find that fascinating and kind of cool about like just how you can feel different feelings in a game than in real life. And then like putting on that filter of like, well, if I treat my life like where I can step back and observe it just like I do a game, that's really cool. Because when you were talking about the game, and that I was thinking about like games and how fun they are, but how like that pause, or sometimes like if I'm like, for instance, if I'm playing, like Bop and I played a ton of cribbage when I was up there last, and we were playing cribbage, and it's like we went in waves with our luck, but there was a stretch there where like my luck was so not good. Like I just was not getting any cards, and I was like, I found myself like, I don't care about the cards. I instead dropped into the present moment and just was like in the experience of like playing cards with my dad, and that like we weren't working, we were just in the moment having fun together. Like I was taught that game when I was 8 years old by my dad and my mom. And so here I am at 53 having that same experience, but now the teacher and the student are same, but different. And I just was, I don't know, it was such a different, I feel like there was a time in my life where I would have been like, oh, this is so boring, I'm not getting any cards, whatever. And instead I just was like, well, what if it's not about that right now? What if it's about the time I'm spending, the joking we're doing, and just the being in the moment with my dad? And that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And like, to me, that is like, I just want to address what you were saying earlier. Like, I do not feel more strongly about games than I do about real life. Like in terms of like,
I knew you were going to say that. I didn't mean it quite in that way. I meant more about like feeling emotions that you don't feel regularly in real life, but more strongly in games.
Yes. So there's a few things here. I think so. For one, games are, in a game, it's a lot. Games are simplifications, right? It's a simplification of real life in many ways, because in a game there are very clear rules most of the time, and there's a dictation of what is right and wrong oftentimes, and what is valuable, whatever it is, and winning is the end goal. And in life, that's not the case. So for me, a lot of like it's really hard, or it's hard for me to get mad at someone in real life, because as opposed to in a game, because in a game they can be very clearly the bad guy, at least to me. Because in a game, all I have to care about is that one thing winning. Obviously, like within the context of the game. Obviously, when you take that step back, that's not all that you care about. It's not all me, Andrew, as a person cares about, but me, Andrew, the character playing this game, that's all that he cares about. And I love that. And it's fun. and me, Andrew, the character playing the game, if someone else is getting in the way of that, or something else is getting in the way of that singular goal that he has, he will get angry or, you know, react in some way, or start scheming to try to get around them or whatever. And that is this very wonderful experience for me. In real life, that's not, I don't have a singular goal that I'm going towards, and obstacles, I if I can, instead of getting angry at them, I will try to sidestep them or go a different direction or use them to my advantage or whatever. But I guess I've just sort of, in real life, I've trained myself more, or I haven't trained myself to see things as black and white. So those emotional responses, or like emotional responses such as anger, are harder to achieve for me. I definitely still can get angry in real life, but it's more so when I'm like having trouble taking that step back, or having trouble, when I get angry in real life, it is when I am viewing real life. Most often it is when I'm viewing real life more like a game where I have a singular purpose and that's all I care about in that moment. And that's when I recognize that, I'm like, this probably isn't a good way to approach life right now. And sometimes maybe it is, but most of the time, no, approaching life like a game is not very good, at least for me.
Right. No, I hear you. So I don't necessarily think we need to dig into the video anymore, but just the concept of happiness. I'm just curious because I'm learning. I'm going to ask the just curious question first. I'm just curious if you know what makes you happy.
A lot of things make me happy. Dogs make me happy. Like, are you asking just like broadly? Are you asking for necessary and sufficient conditions for something to make me happy, or are you what sort of scope are you going for here?
I think I'm just broadly, like, do you know what makes you happy?
I think honestly what makes me happy, I think, is having my basic needs met, and that includes having a stable place to live and food to eat and enough time to sleep and enough time to get my like social battery recharged and to, you know, spend time like, you know, working on something in the world. Like, to me, I consider those to be basic needs for me. Mm-hmm. If I have all of those things met, I am happy, broadly speaking. Like, I think my default is happy, and having when I'm unhappy is when I'm missing something, as opposed to needing something in particular to be happy beyond what I need to, like, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I had another question pop in and it went right back out.
Oh.
I didn't want to interrupt you, and that's okay. Yeah, I'm finding it interesting. I know things that make me happy, like, without a doubt. But if someone asks me what I want in any given moment, I might not come up with an answer. Mm-hmm. Like, that's too broad and too vague for me. Give me a yes, no. Would you like to do X? Yes or no? I can answer that way easier than what would make you happy in this moment? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of things that would make me happy in this moment. Who says I'm not happy right now, right? Like, I don't know. There's like, so I find the question, and I'm finding myself exploring it more, because I think the other thing is like, when I'm not happy, when I'm in a state of not happy, sometimes it's hard for me to know what I need.
Yeah.
And I think that's because I showed up for much of my life in service to others on some level, right? Or showing up to be accepted or loved, or, you know, and that's my old story. I don't show up in that way anymore. And I did that to myself, and I totally get that. But, you know, I just find it interesting that, like, I've had moments where, like, I'm trying to think of what would make me happy when I'm unhappy, and it's just like freaking nothing. you know, like, because I'm in that state of nothing would make me happy in the now, but I always know that's not true because I do have some just solid things that like you and your brother always bring me joy, right? Like, and maybe that wasn't always true, right? When you were little
even when
and we
we're
were all in the
refusing to
same
eat
house.
even when we're refusing to eat our canned fruit.
Oh dear.
Or perhaps,
you know,
hiding our homework in our desk.
But in the now, when I start having unhappy moments on the regular, I actually, like, I know, like, I'll get a calling and I'll know I need to reach out to Jake and Andrew because I'm craving my sons to a point where it's like, it's been too long. We haven't connected. I miss them dearly because I'm not a mom who, like, you know, I'm not a mom. I don't call you all the time. I don't text you all the time. I don't have a requirement that we talk every week, or I'm just not that person. I'm not that person with anyone in my life, really. Maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm that way with Dan. I have to have someone that's connected, but it's just like, I don't super love the phone. I don't need to be like, if you and I don't talk for 3 weeks, I'm not like, oh my God, does Andrew think I don't love him? Does Andrew not love me? Like, I just don't go to those places. I'm like, if you need me, you know where I am and you know I'm always here. Mm-hmm. Like, and I know the same is true for you. But I do know that when I'm unhappy, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea for me to reach out to my boys. But I often don't because I'm just in a place where, I don't want to spend time with me. Why would you? You know, when I'm in that state, it's like, I got to get out of this state first, which is a little bit of a conundrum and a catch-22. It's like, well, you're not going to get out of that state if you keep spinning in the same circle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have that too, where it's like when you're unhappy, it's like to find what would make you happy is more challenging?
It's hard. Yeah, it's definitely harder. Like, because when I'm happy, I don't think about it. I don't think about being happy or what is making me happy in that moment. I just am. So then when I'm unhappy and I don't have any, like, and I'm not, like, I don't know really.
Yeah.
I've found a lot of the times when I'm feeling unhappy, like at least on a short scale, it's because I'm missing something. Like either like
me too.
I'm hungry, or I haven't been sleeping, or I've been just like socially exhausted and I haven't had time to recharge, or you know, something like that. Or I haven't.
That's a really great observation. I just want to pause there because when you said it's that I'm missing something, like I was just reflecting back and it's like, that is, I feel like, and I don't usually say always, and so I'm not going to say always, but I feel like very, very often when we are unhappy, it's legit. We're missing a piece of self-care. We're missing something that we normally do to nurture ourselves or to take care of ourselves that we've let slack or that hasn't been possible. And then it puts us in this state. And then we're in that state so we don't have the awareness to look for what we've been missing. Like that's just that's good insight for people. Like if they're unhappy, like what might you be missing that would be helpful to take you out of this state of unhappiness?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it as a blanket across the board. I do think there are levels of despair and unhappiness where it's going to take more than just you're missing a piece. Yeah, I'm missing a lot of pieces. Like shit's happening in my life. You know, right. Like sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about like as a general day-to-day happy versus unhappy, you know.
Yeah.
Not when you're in that state of like rock bottom. I don't mean that.
Right. Yeah, I agree totally. With both your statement and your qualifiers you added at the end.
I do feel like I'm finding more and more as I am in the state of like my own personal growth and helping others in their personal growth and talking with people and being intrigued by how we transform and show up in the world so we can do better, right? Like do better for ourselves, for each other, for the world. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, be better today than I was yesterday. But I find that the more I'm inquisitive, which kind of means that I'm seeking, right? Like I'm seeking an answer. I want to look for the possibilities of what else could be. I want to be open to a different outcome or a different path or a different, just something new that is unseen and unknown, but that would be really helpful and useful. And I have to be a little bit careful with that because I use the word seeker, just like somebody who likes to seek out knowledge and learn new things. And sometimes I can get down that rabbit hole of, okay, what am I going to learn next? But like I'm doing that in an avoidance of my own work. It's almost like, well, I want to learn a new thing because I don't really want to look at the thing that's bubbling up in my being because that's uncomfortable. So instead I want to look for this other thing that I can learn about. But then sometimes, depending on where you land, like that other thing that you're drawn to is actually, there's like a bit in there that is useful for you in helping you navigate wherever you're going next. I don't know. That's a slippery slope for me though, because education, learning, not traditional education for me, but like these, things like Thai massage and Reiki and yoga and other things are where I can get lost in the study of it and then realize I'm actually avoiding a big piece of something that for me needs to be surfaced and seen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I say that too much. I say that makes sense a lot, or that's fair a lot.
I say that's fair a lot. I do think I say that makes sense. I also ask if it makes sense a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what it was. We're going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it was some class I was in or a speaker that I was listening to. And they were talking about asking those questions like, does that make sense? Or things like that actually takes away some of your power because it implies that you don't have confidence that you do make sense. And I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more of a way to connect with other people and to make sure that I'm not losing them or that like I don't need to circle back to something that I wasn't clear on because sometimes my words don't match exactly what I'm feeling and trying to get across. And it's not that I'm not confident in what I'm saying. It's more that I want to make sure that everybody hears things differently and listens differently and has their own life experience, that they're putting everything I'm saying through, just like I'm putting everything you're saying through my life experience. And how am I interpreting this? And then we engage further in dialogue to make sure that we're understanding each other. Like, I find that beautiful. I don't find that like, because you asked me if that makes sense, that takes away some of your power. I do get their point.
Yeah.
But I was like,
Yeah, I've learned not to ask that question too in at least one of the books I've been reading for my education classes. Is it's just no student will ever answer no, or very rarely will a student ever answer no, and that I think that's also true in conversation. Very rarely does someone answer no. I think I actually might have answered no for you a couple times on this podcast. But I'm a very direct person when people ask me questions.
Well, and we're different. We're different relationship too. Mother-son relationship is a little different than
that. True. That too.
Yeah. I appreciate that we can do that with each other.
Yeah, me too. I would say I that makes sense. Doesn't bother me at all. Sometimes when you ask like, do you hate that, or is that terrible, or would it be terrible if like that does make me feel like you're almost like negating the thing that you're trying to say, which always like I guess like bums me out a little because like I care about the thing that you have to say, and it feels like you don't when you say that, and whether or not that's true, but that's the impression I get.
Sometimes when I say that, it's me being snarky and snide. Because I know what I'm going to say is a little bit snarky and snide. So I'm like, I know that there's a little bit of me that's a terrible person for saying and thinking this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah, I think that so when it's that, it doesn't bother me so much. Sometimes I say it like that. And I think I should actually pay attention to that more, because I actually feel like if I say, is it terrible if that is coming from an old pattern of guilt and shame that I grew up with. But I don't actually believe it. It's just there's a small seed of me that is like pulling that forward. And maybe that's my way of releasing it. I don't know. But now that you say that, that's actually really cool. That's a good observation for me to pay attention to.
Because I don't feel that way when I say it. It's more, I'm like, I kind of know that this is, right? I even shrink down when I say it. Like, I kind of know that this isn't super great. Or there's a piece of me that was told that this isn't super great. But the fact that I'm saying it now is huge, because I used to not speak up about anything because I was afraid that whatever I said was not right, because there was a right and a wrong. And I didn't like that. And I don't think there is a right and a wrong anymore, to some extent. I mean, I'm using that broadly, but
yeah,
you know, I think there's a you and be you, and that's cool.
Yeah, I could see that being like a defense mechanism of like, well, if I say it first, then you won't.
Then I can't get yelled at.
Then you won't say it to me, or it won't mean much if you say it to me because I said it first. Like, I already called what I'm saying terrible or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you say it, then who cares?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's true for you, but
sometimes I say it in a humor way too. Like, there's a part where I'm like, look, this is going to be harsh. Like, hearing this is going to feel unsettling. And I'm going to say it anyway. Mm-hmm. Which maybe makes me an asshole. I don't know.
It depends. Not for you. Sorry. No, that was not directed at you. No.
No, that was amazing.
No, you're not an asshole, Mom. I swear.
I can be. It's okay.
I don't
sometimes
think you're an asshole, but no. That justification can, like, when someone says, like. No offense, but, or this is going to, this may sound bad, but I'm like, why keep talking if this is going to sound bad? Like if this is going to, like,
no
this is going to be
really
definitely weird, but, like, or really rude, but, like, no, then stop talking if it's going to be really good, rude.
I should actually stop people when they say that for now. Like, just go, okay, we're going to stop you right there. If that is actually true, don't talk. Like, we're just letting everybody out in the listening world know. If you have to preface it with that, if you're going to preface it with that, then don't say it. And if you're going to say it anyway, just don't say that, because you can just be who you are. Yeah. I don't have a problem hearing other people's opinions or whatever, even if it's rude. It's like, well, okay, that's rude, or you're rude. And sometimes there's a line where I'm like, well, you can't uncross that line now, and peace out. Like, that changed everything. Yeah. And that's their risk, you know?
Right. Like,
but saying this might be offensive doesn't make it better.
Right. Yeah, it's not a get out of jail free card. If you're self-aware that you're an asshole, that doesn't make you any less of an asshole.
It's so funny. Oh gosh, how do we get from that to happiness to that? I don't know, but on that note, it feels complete. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this might be a two-parter. We might have to
that's cool.
Swap it.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, me too.
I will say I would like to encourage everyone to explore what makes them happy and what takes them out of unhappy. I think that's maybe a more important I think it's a harder question.
Yeah.
To know what takes you out of the unhappy is a harder question, and I think it's one worth exploring because it could save your life someday. Legit.
Yeah. And you can ask the question, what am I missing? And the answer may be internal, it may be external, but it's an important answer to find.
Yeah, and to give the pause afterwards to listen to, like, I feel like our body tells us. Like, if you have a thought come in right after you say what is missing and your body tenses up, like, maybe that's not the thing. But if you have a bunch of thoughts come in afterwards and your body feels expanded and open, then maybe that is a thing. I know I just went down a whole pathway that is not Sir Andrew.
Yeah.
But our body does tell us in some way if our thoughts are in alignment with our best and highest good or not. And it's just good to practice and listen. We're going to end it there because otherwise we're going to go down a whole nother rabbit hole. We can do that another time.
Oh, yeah.
I took it to another place and I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's good. I'm glad you're sharing your pro body strats.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to stop and listen, if we're going to ask questions, then that requires listening. And if we're going to listen, I say, why not listen mind, body, and spirit? For me, that's true. Mind, body, spirit.
That's the sound of me falling down the rabbit hole.
Okay. On that note, we'll give Andrew some time to fall down the rabbit hole and just explore it for a little while. And then we'll come back and revisit another day.
Bye.
Is that... Is that all you got, Andrew? Is that a wrap?
I think that's a wrap. Yeah.
All right.
Actually,
please
wait,
subscribe.
hang on.
Oh no, go ahead. What are you doing?
I think
Oh my
that's
goodness,
a wrap.
where? Oh,
Maybe I'll add in
he's in the rabbit hole.
Some echo effects.
Yeah, you sounded very distant.
Yeah.
There was no echo, but you were very distant.
Oh, good. That's all I want. Perfect.
Yes, you were distant. At least in my earbud, you were. So
perfect.
I'm guessing it will be the same will be true for our listeners. So please give us a like and subscribe. We love having you join us every week, and we are having fun with this, and we hope you are enjoying it as well. You can find us on social media at Michelle Albers on Facebook and Instagram, or JID Wellness on Facebook, or JID Studio on Instagram. Or you can just easily look up our website at jaideewellness.com. Or you can send us an email there, contact us. Any which way you want to reach out would be great. We're happy you're here. Bye. Be you every day.
Bye.